Uh, Perfect. So, last day, I think we spoke about around 2 to 3 topics, 2 to 3 manual testing slides, guys. Today we'll move to we'll try to cover 4, 5, 6, like whatever content is applicable in slide 4, 5, 6. And if time permits, we'll try to have 7 also. Okay, so let's see how it goes. So before moving ahead, anybody got any kind of doubts, queries, questions, whatever we have learned so far? Anyone wants to add anything, guys, before I move to next this thing topic in manual testing? Okay, perfect. So today we will be moving on to manual testing, system testing part, wherein you remember, right? System testing is basically comprises of four major different types of testing. That is GUI testing, usability testing, functional testing, and non-functional testing. So GUI is coming under graphical user interface. Then we have usability testing. Then we have functional testing and the non-functional testing. So when it comes to functional and non-functional, guys, functional means like the normal QA, like the end-to-end testing, which comes under such as sanity, regression, smoke. But when it comes to non-functional testing, it is something which is comprises of performance testing, security testing, compatibility, installation. So all these different types of testing comes under non-functional testing. Okay. So system testing, you can see that we have something called as what is GUI testing. So GUI testing is graphical user interface, like the look and feel of the application, how the UI is, how it is looking, what are the what are the various UI element which is visible to the user, and how they are kind of looking. Okay, so all this comes under GUI testing, guys. Okay, so here we talk about font, we talk about size of the icons, we talk about the let's say radio button, checkboxes, drop downs. You can consider, let's say, images, everything we will consider inside our GUI testing. So here, if you notice carefully, we have the complete checklist, guys. So here you can see we are kind of checking each and every, you can say, whatever is present over the UI or let's say web element, guys. Okay, if you want to test the size, you obviously do the size, position, width, height of the element. So here element means like the part, so something which is present over the UI, guys. So that is something which we called it as an element. Then we have the error messages, which is kind of getting popped up. Then we have different section of the screen, guys. Okay, so in real time what we will do, we will take one real example, guys. We'll go to one of the website, which is let's say skyscanner.co.in. So when you go to this website, you see that you are having various UI element which is kind of getting loaded over the page, guys. Okay, so out of this, you need to make sure that the alignment is perfect. The from, destination, all the buttons which are coming, those are perfect. These three checkboxes which you can see over here, those should be perfect, right? So all this testing usually is done under the GUI testing, guys. Okay, clear everyone? Okay, moving on. Uh, moving on, we have something called as usability testing. Okay, so usability testing is like usually like when I give anything, or let's say when I provide you the URL. Okay, now how user friendly is that website? Okay, so you might come across several live example wherein you say that, hey, this website is not user friendly, this website is little bit complex to understand, right? So those type of websites are not user friendly, so over there usability testing will not work fine. So what is usability testing, guys? Usability testing is now validate the application, provide context sensitive help or not to the user. Okay, if I am taking any website which is obviously like the purpose of the website is to let's say book any product or something, and if I am able to serve that purpose, means that website is fine, it is perfect, no issue with that. But if there is some complex scenarios or complex steps that has been involved in using that website, so that comes under you can say negative testing of usability testing. Okay. So overall, the process is how the end user is feeling whenever he is using the websites. Okay. So that is something we called it as usability testing. Next is functional testing, guys. So functional testing is something which is you actually try to provide some input, try to check the output, and what all different combinations of output you can see in the output console. So all this will come under functional testing, guys. Okay. So functional testing you can consider is a little bit vast, guys. But whatever actually we validate, right? So over here, if I want to search, let's say flight between source and destination, then you should be aware that we will require some test data to be passed over here. So what are those test data? So that data you need to provide it over here. And also along with those data, you need to provide the date as well. So once you provide this detail, right, after that you just need to click on search button. Correct? So basically you are aware that what all input you need to provide. Okay. And based on that, it will take the input, guys. Okay, that's what it is. So once you are ready with your input, you will be able to do the functional testing with respect to features as well, like how this particular feature should work. Okay, so that is something coming under functional testing. The next is non-functional testing. As I mentioned, guys, non-functional testing is purely like you can consider we have security testing, we have performance testing, right? So all this will be part of your non-functional testing. Okay, so like you have various session related data, cookies related data, okay, application data, so object property, database handling, right? So all this will come under all this will come under non-functional testing. Okay, so non-functional testing is security, performance, installation, compatibility. So all this is a part of your non-functional testing. And into that, the performance testing part, it is actually you can consider like it is divided into load testing, stress testing, volume testing, security, recovery, compatibility, configuration. Okay, so all these are part of your non-functional testing, guys. Okay, so now the concern is whether non-functional testing comes along with like are we the one who are doing the non-functional testing as a Selenium tester or as an automation engineer? The answer is no, guys. We are not the one who will do the NFT. Please remember. But yes, if you want to, let's say, explore some of the, let's say, you want to try some POC activity or something for security or performance, that is obviously you can do, that's not a problem. But as a automation engineer, we will be purely responsible under the functional testing of the application. Please remember this. Okay. So non-functional testing, we have a separate team who are kind of purely, let's say, working on the NFT part, that is non-functional requirement. Okay. So they will gather whatever requirement is required from the performance testing, whether it is API performance, whether it is UI performance, whether you want to do security testing for the UI flows, API flows. So everything will be provided, guys. Okay, and based on that, you will do or start your QA activity for the performance and security. Anybody has any doubt, any query for any like this four this testing type, which is part of your system testing, guys? GUI testing, usability testing, functional testing, and non-functional testing. Anybody got any doubt? Please feel free to unmute and speak up, guys. Yes, anyone? Yeah, go ahead. Okay. So if everyone has got the clarity, we'll move to the next step. Now, what is the difference major between functional and non-functional, guys? As I mentioned, right, functional testing is purely related with validating the functionality of the software, and non-functional is purely related with performance, security, reliability of the software. Okay. Can anyone give me some real example for non-functional testing, guys? Anyone? Yes,
Like
anyone?
performance testing and performance engineering, if it comes to the non-functional testing.
Mm-hmm.
When it comes to performance testing, we are checking the page response times and stability of the application, how long it will the responsiveness, and we are performing like certain types of tests like load test, stress test, endurance test, failure testing, and volume testing. We are doing certain type of tests, and we are trying to find out the bottlenecks, if any, like high response times and like higher CPU utilization. We're checking the server side metrics as well as client side metrics in the performance testing. So that's we called as for performance testing. Uh, in security testing, just I have a little bit idea, like checking how vulnerabilities, like checking like we are getting, suppose when we are trying to load, if we getting 200 response or not, and we will pass invalid data. If we pass invalid data, what type of response we will get? So those type of issues we will, I mean, those type of issues we'll check in the security testing part. That's that's
Okay.
it.
Yeah, perfect. So basically, guys, for performance and security, guys, we will have altogether separate tools. Okay. Is it like it's not like we will do along with Selenium automation? So there are several other tools which are available in the market, such as Jmeter, Neoload, Load Runner, Cases, Gatling. So all these are the performance testing tool, guys. Similarly, for security testing, also we are having separate set of tools such as Bubsuit, SAP, Wireshark, Archery Sack. So all these are kind of the tools which are available. Some of them are open source, some of them are also not, like there is some pricing involved, guys. So non-functional testing uh, will require little bit the knowledge on the configuration side of the system, guys. Okay. Although it does not have any, I would say, like comparatively less coding compared to functional testing. But the thing is, over here, you should have the clarity on the configuration on which we are doing the testing with. Okay. Now, coming to functional testing, wherein I told you that we will create our script. So this obviously requires the complete coding skill set with respect to Java, Python, ROR, C Sharp, whatever programming language you are using. Okay. So before moving on to NFT, guys, you need to make sure that your system is comparatively stable. Okay. So to check that whether the system is stable or not, we usually perform functional testing first. Okay. So when I say functional testing first, we usually focus on making sure that the system is stable. So for that reason, what we will do functional testing, guys. Okay. Next is let's move to the next part, wherein we will talk more on the testing, non-functional testing. But I hope everyone are clear till here. Okay, so I'll move to the next this thing. wherein we will have the detailed discussions on the design techniques, guys. Okay. So now this is a part of manual testing, guys, wherein as a QA, you are more of responsible for having separate, you can say, test data, test cases, test scenario, requirement traceability matrix. So you are more of like involved in creations of this. Okay. But before, I mean, going into this, you need to make sure the design approach or the, let's say, the approach which you are using for creating all this, right? That is correct. Okay. So we are having few of the approaches, guys, with respect to test case designing, guys. So what are those? We have equivalence class partitioning, boundary value analysis, decision table based testing, state transition, and error guessing. Okay. So these are the major type of design techniques which we use to generate our test cases. Okay, very simple, because this is like little bit theoretical, guys. Some of them are implementing, some of them are, let's say, having the knowledge, but in real time we never implement this, right? But still at high level, if someone asks you what are the different design techniques we have in testing, guys, you need to be clear that we are having few design techniques such as ECP, BVA. Okay, so all this is like little bit theoretical. Okay, so how we usually do with the ECP, guys? ECP comes with a concept of you have a form and you have some values to be validated, and the value is between 0 to 1 lakh or something, right? So what you do, you will not be able to test all the values. As a QA, it is mandatory that all the value or accept input should work fine. Okay, if you pass 0, that should also work fine. If you pass 1 lakh, that should also work fine. So how to kind of get the data between 0 to 1 lakh? So what we will do, we will use the concept of ECP. In ECP, what happens basically, like you segregate or you, I mean, have the set like 0 to, let's say, 10,000, 10,000 to 20,000, 20 to 30. So you kind of partitions your data, guys. And out of those partition data, you take one or two input from each one of them, and you pass the value to the input field. And if it is working fine, then you are good to go, guys. Okay, that's what we do in the ECP part. Okay, clear everyone? So we will take positive set of data, negative sets of data, and we will execute all the test cases with all sets of data and make sure that all the test cases are working fine. Same is the case with alphabets, guys. If you have some values to be passed in terms of alphabets, capital, small, all these things, so we will take some valid combination, some invalid combination, and based on that we'll provide the input to respective field, guys. Next is boundary value analysis. Like boundary value analysis is a like technique wherein you will take some boundary values which is present for the applications or, let's say, particular field. If you have the age as between 1835, so you will take the boundary values such as 17, 19, 34, 36. If those values are considered as an input, it is working fine, right? Then you will kind of pass your test case. Okay, clear everyone? Next is decision table, guys. Decision table is also called as cause effect diagram, cause effect table. It is also called as fishbone diagram. It is also called as Ishikawa diagram, guys. Okay, in your this thing you will see when you search for Ishikawa, you will get a fishbone structure. That's the reason this is also called as fishbone diagram. So what happens in this diagram, basically we are having some condition, and based on that condition you actually take some action. Okay, so there are considerable amount of condition, and based on those respective condition you will take the respective action, guys. Okay, so what we do in this, we usually consider those action, and based on those action input, we try to create our test case in the decision table. Over here, you guys can see that we are having three condition, and based on this three condition, we are taking the action. Okay, so what are those three conditions? Conditions are simple. When you have any amount to be kind of sent to any account, right? So there are three conditions which are mandatory. Account should be approved, OTP should be matched, and there should be sufficient amount into your balance, like account balance. Then only you will be able to perform, such as you will be able to send the money, transfer the money, show the message as insufficient fund, block the transition in case of suspicious transitions. Okay, so these are the major three action you to take. Okay, so over here, based on those three action and conditions, we are having total 6 test cases, guys. Okay, so TC1 is saying that all three are true. What will happen? TC2, test case 2 is saying that two of the conditions are true and third condition is false. What will happen? TC3 is saying that account is approved but OTP is not matching, correct? So based on the permutation and combination, which for the condition part, we generate our respective test case, guys. Clear? Next is state transition, guys. State transitions means you are trying to change the state from one phase to another phase. So we have some diagrams basically which is called as the state transition diagram. So what happens when you provide this input? What happens when you provide this negative input? So the if you know the state, what would be the next state, right? Based on that, you will get the clarity how the application is behaving. Okay. Now here, if you notice carefully in the state transition diagram, you see that we are having first attempt, we are having second attempt, and then we are having the third attempt. And if the first attempt is passed, then we are navigating to home page. If first attempt is fail, right, we are having the chance of second attempt. If second attempt also got fail, we are having the chance of third attempt and so on. Okay. And if you done the third, all three attempt, then your account might get locked, guys. Okay. So that's how it is designed. So usually in the state transition diagram, you need to be very sure based on which state you are having the respective, you can write the respective test cases, guys. Okay, based on the what would be the next state of this particular application and all those things. Next is error guessing, guys. Error guessing is nothing but you assume that if I provide this input to the application, it will throw this error or something. Okay. So error guessing comes with an experience, guys. Okay. Once you have sufficient experience as a QA, so you will be aware that if this is an e-commerce application, what are the different error message you may get? If this is a banking domain, right, project, so what type of different error message we can get? So what happens when you try to pass or submit the value without entering any key, let's say any of the value into the field, text field, right? So what will happen? So those type of scenarios comes under error guessing, guys. Okay. So in error guessing, we don't follow any specific rule. Okay. It depends upon the tester's analytic skills as well as you can say experience. Okay. And here some of the examples you can see like when we submit a form, right, without entering value, when we enter invalid values such as alphabets or the numeric value in the field, right? So all this comes under error guessing flow, guys. Everyone are clear, guys? What are the design techniques? Anybody has any questions, any queries, please feel free to unmute and speak up, guys. So I'm just covering at high level. If anybody wants in detail understanding of any of them, please feel free to ask, guys. Perfect. Let's move to the next part, guys, which is about uh, like little bit in detail about different types of testing, guys. Okay. So this is like little bit again. You need to have the clarity on what all different concepts are, guys. Okay. So first we have the regression testing. Okay. So regression testing is something wherein if there are any changes which are happening into your application, which has been modified by someone or let's say development team, then our role is to make sure that those changes will not impact the existing functionality, existing feature. Okay. So for that reason, what we do a regression testing. Okay. So we have few of the regression, you can say testing such as unit regression testing, regional regression testing, and full regression. So unit regression is basically for the simple single unit, single component, single module guys. Regional will be like all the impacted module we validate whether those are working fine or not. Okay. Next is full regression, guys. Full regression is like you will do a sanity and smoke for the complete application. Okay. So that comes under full regression. Next is we have retesting, guys. Okay. So retesting is different, guys. Regression testing is different. Don't get confused like both are same. Retesting, we validate the bugs again. We will validate only those bugs which we have raised, guys. We will not test the complete application again. So that is coming under retest. Okay. Now, if tomorrow or let's say if today I have raised bug 1, 2, 3, and if bug 1, 2, 3 has been resolved by the developer, then my role will be to validate whether those bugs are working fine or not. So that is something called as retesting. When you validate bug 1, 2, 3 and you validate the complete system again, so that is called as regression testing. Okay, so that's the difference between retesting and regression. Okay, next is guys, what is the here is one common example which you guys can understand very simple. Like we have three modules: admin, purchase, and finance. Now, if someone has, let's say, found a bug in the purchase module, so purchase module, like the one which is showing in blue color. Now, if tester fix any issues in purchase module, so he will do what? He will do retesting. And he want to see the impacted modules such as admin as well as finance, then at that time he will do what? Regression testing. So regression testing is done on the impacted modules, guys. Please remember. Okay. And retesting is done the bugs validation for the same bugs which has been found, guys. Okay. Next is smoke and sanity, guys. Very, very important concept because this usually we do. This is the first step in the QA world. Like whenever we get any new build from the development team, we initially start with the smoke and sanity test cases, guys. Okay. So what is smoke? What is sanity? Sanity is kind of doing the testing for the critical functionality, main functionality. You can consider, let's say, a very important functionality for the application. So if you consider an e-commerce, what are the important functionality? You are able to see the product. You are able, you the payment. You are able to kind of do the transaction. You are able to add the shipping address, billing address, payment method. So all this comes under what? Critical functionality. Okay. When you are working on a banking related project wherein there are some account related things such as saving account, current account, and many other type of accounts. So you need to check the balance transfer, fund transfer, account addition, all those comes under critical functionality. So validating those critical functionality comes under which testing, guys? Sanity. On the other hand, smoke testing is making sure the build which we have received from the developer that is stable or not. Sometime what happens, the developer will say that, hey, we have made the changes, you can start validating. And as soon as you hit any URL, it's like keeps on loading, nothing happens. We get Nginx error, we get server error. The APIs are throwing 500, the APIs are throwing 504 bad gateway. So all these errors, if the APIs are throwing, then you can consider the build which you have received is unstable. Okay, so the build which you have received is unstable. You can talk to developer and reassign and obviously update over email or Jira saying that these are the issues which has not been fixed because the environment URL what you have shared are not like is not working. Okay, so you need to provide some detailed screenshots, videos, right? And then you need to say this statement. So smoke testing is performed by both the developer as well as the QA team. And smoke testing obviously gives us the answer as the build is stable or not. That's it. If it is unstable, we straight away reject the build, guys. There is no this thing, any other further argument or any questions in that. Okay, and please remember, guys, it is done on the initial build only. Okay, it's a basic part of your testing, and it is usually done whenever there is a new build, which is given by the team. Okay. Next is sanity is a part of regression, guys. Regression testing. It is done on the stable build and it is usually planned when there is no enough time. So if I give you a website, any website, guys, if I give you a website today for testing, what you will do? You will only validate the functionalities which are like really very important in terms of that particular application. So now if I give you, let's say, hey, can you validate the Gmail, please? So what you will do, whether the Gmail registration is working fine, whether you are able to log in into Gmail, whether you are able to send the email to the required person, whether you are receiving the email, whether you can create an event, whether whether you can add the contacts in Gmail. So all this comes under what? You can consider sanity test cases, guys. Am I clear, everyone? Anybody has any query, any doubt? We'll take a pause for a minute, guys. Please unmute and speak up, guys, before we move ahead. Sanity, smoke, regression, retesting. Anybody wants to add anything? Please unmute and speak up for any of the pointers. Perfect. Moving on, we have this simple flow chart, guys, which is very straightforward to understand. If smoke testing is passed, you can build is accepted. You move to the next, let's say system testing and regression testing. If smoke testing is not passed, you reject the build. Even same is the case. Same is the case with sanity testing. If sanity testing is passed, you accept the build. If sanity testing is failed, you reject the build. Perfect. So when you accept the build, guys, you start with other types of testing such as system testing, regression testing. Okay. So that's what happens over here. Clear, everyone? Moving on to the next part, we have exploratory testing, guys. What is exploratory testing? We explore the applications to understand and do the validate all the flow. So if I give you any application or any APK or IPF file in your like Android mobile or iPhone mobile, right? What you do? You try to explore that application for like 5-10 minutes, right? What is this application about? How the registration process is? What are the features it is showing when we are not doing the registration? What are the features it will show when we do the registration, right? So all this kind of exploration you do, guys. Okay, so what happens with that? You are trying to explore the application, and with that approach, what happens? You generate lot of test cases into your mind that this can be the scenario, this can be the scenario. So what we do, we try to have the validation for all those scenarios. So that is something comes under exploratory testing. Okay. Clear, everyone? So exploratory testing, please remember, we do this when the application is ready, but we don't have any detailed requirement that you need to validate this or something. So whoever is, let's say, little bit having some experience exposure with the real-time application, they will have good understanding on the exploratory testing, guys. Okay. And the drawback over here is if you have found any bug or defect in any of the feature, okay, if you have misunderstood any of the feature was let's say need to update X, but it is updating Y. So if you have missed that understanding of feature, then it will obviously throw some error, guys. It is time consuming, guys. And please remember, if there is any bugs in the application, you will never know about it. Okay, so that's what the exploratory testing is. Next is ad hoc testing, guys. There is no documentation, no design, no test cases, nothing. So the aim of this ad hoc testing is, guys, to break the application. Okay, so usually this happens in the gaming industry that we will give you the game, and now your aim is to kind of look for a scenario wherein your application is getting crashed, guys. Okay, so this happens usually in the gaming apps. You are playing, suddenly the game is some showing like exception or some error, right? So that comes under ad hoc testing, guys. Okay, and here the QA or like whoever is doing ad hoc testing, they should have the knowledge of application. Okay, so they should be aware what options are available over this thing, what are the options, features available over website. So they should be aware. So it's an unplanned activity, guys. Please consider that there will be no requirement, no test cases, nothing will be provided. Okay, you will straight away start with your testing part. Next is monkey gorilla, which is simple, same as ad hoc testing only. Here also don't have the understanding of any of the this thing. So it is suitable mainly for the gaming application, guys. Okay. So here is the comparison between ad hoc monkey and exploratory testing, guys. You will see that almost all the features are same. Okay, the only thing here is that in ad hoc testing, tester has the knowledge of this thing application, but in case of monkey and gorilla, the tester does not have the knowledge, guys. Okay, and the intention is to break the application, and here exploratory, guys, the intention is to learn and explore the functionality of application. Okay. Next is positive testing, wherein you try to pass the positive sets of data, and then we have the negative testing. So positive testing obviously comes with the positive test cases, simple. Okay, so if your text field is saying that pass the value between so and so, so if you are passing the value between that number, right, that becomes a positive test case. If you are not passing the value between that, that becomes a negative test case. Okay, so if you are saying that it is accepting only numbers and you are passing alphabets, then that becomes a negative test case. Okay, next is positive versus negative. A very simple example, if a text box is there and the feature of the text box is, let's say, it accept only 6 to 20 characters or something. So based on that requirement, how many, like what are the different sets of test case you can create? So the first test case is positive, like text box accept 6 character, text box accept up to 20 character length, text text box accept any value in between 6 and 20 char length. Okay, so all this comes under positive test cases. What are the negative? Negative will be it cannot accept, it should not accept less than 6, it should not accept less than 20, it should not accept special care, it should not accept numerical. So those things comes under negative test cases. Okay, clear everyone? So this is about positive and negative, guys. Then we have, guys, end-to-end testing. Okay, so end-to-end testing means like you are trying to validate the complete end-to-end functionality starting from login, add customer, delete customer, edit customer, and log out. Okay, so this comes under end-to-end testing. So the integration between all the modules should be perfect, and based on that only you will be able to perform end-to-end testing. Next is, guys, globalization and localization. So globalization testing and localization testing is purely for some of the applications which is, let's say, globally working. So what you need to do, you need to check in different geolocation how this application is behaving. Okay, so over here we have various culture, various countries, right? and different countries has different you can say aspects. So what we make sure that it is working fine in those countries as well. So here we have, let's say, mobile format difference, right? Language related, currency related, address format, right? So we try to validate those, whether those are working fine. So that comes under globalization testing. Next is localization testing. Localization means within the same regions or something. So over here you can see that uh, will support only one specific language, specific mobile format, and specific address. Correct. So here you can see one example, guys. One of the website, that is baidu.com, which is actually accessible within the China region only, and it is actually present in only single language, that is Chinese, right? It has no other this thing language, guys. Okay. So you can consider this particular product as a localized product, which is actually local to that particular region only. Okay. Now, even guys, if you see in globalization testing, you consider, let's say, Meta, which is Facebook or something. If you notice, Facebook is being used across the world, but it may not be used in China region, guys, because they are having their own product, guys. Okay, which is might be getting used within that same region. Okay, due to data privacy and other issues, guys. Is it clear, everyone? Anybody has any queries, any doubt, any questions on any type of testing, guys? Everyone are clear? Perfect. So let me have one more this thing. So let me open it. So meanwhile, guys, anybody wants to add anything, please unmute and speak up. If anybody got anything to add, guys, okay. Uh, okay. So the next this thing is like this is related to your uh, like we have software testing life cycle, right? So we'll discuss in detail about the software testing life cycle, which is looking similar to what we have seen SDLC, but it is purely for the testing phase, guys. Okay. So in the QA world, we are having few phases such as requirement analysis, planning for the test. Then we have test case development. Once the development of the test case is done, then we need to execute those test cases, right? So that comes under test execution. And after that, we are having test cycle closure. Okay, so these are the total six phase you can consider whenever we are working in the QA this thing. So please remember, guys, we need to go through each and every phase as a QA tester, correct? So requirement analysis is important because based on that only you will have the clarity on what exactly is this feature, or let's say particular button is doing, or let's say particular whatever feature, whatever modules you are validating, you need to have little bit clarity on same, what exactly is this doing. Okay, so that is something called as requirement analysis. So you will have the detailed analysis on what all things you need to do. So based on those features or modules or whatever it is available, you will generate your test you will plan your test, and after that you will create the test cases based on your understanding. Once you have the clarity on the understanding of all the test cases, after that what you will do, you will start with the environment setup. So what happens in environment setup basically? There are around 2 to 3 environment as a QA. So there are something called as development environment, stage environment, QA environment, right? So we need to make sure that the DevOps has set up all three of the environment, and we need to validate whether those issues or those pointers are working fine in all of the environments. So that is something we need to do once the environments are ready. Okay. So at the start, we will do the test execution as well in all the environment. And after that, we will have the test cycle closure. So the test cycle closure comes into considerations whenever all the pointers, whatever was planned in the sprint and everything is working fine without any defect issues, right? At that time, you need to kind of come across with the test cycle closure. That means that you have made a statement that everything is working fine. There are no defect, no issue, and we have like zero defect in the applications. So that's the conclusion you make. That's the conclusion you do whenever you are validating any of the features in the particular sprint. Okay. If your sprint size is of 2 weeks, we usually make this statement. Now over here you have high level documentation part, guys. Now this documentation part is very, very important. It's a one time, like I would say the planning part is one time activity. Other than that, test case creation and test execution, this is on the continuous basis. As and when feature keeps on adding, you need to do this process. Okay, so over here you can see that we are having phase, input, activity, responsibility, and outcome. So in the phase section you just see the type of like what exactly we are doing. Input, what are the input to this particular phase, what are the activities involved in this phase, and what is the outcome. Okay, so all this we usually analyze into our you can say all the phases, guys. Please remember this, very, very important. In the test planning phase, we usually decide what to test, when to test, and how to test. And for a test planning phase, we'll require something called as project plan, guys. Okay, so project plan can be anything such as software requirement specification document, functional requirement specification document, test plan, or all the project plan. So this becomes your input, and based on this input you generate a complete you can say test case. Okay, so you prepare your test case, you review that, and you make a sign off. So this is something which we usually do into our like test planning phase. And the responsible team is like the team lead and as well as the test lead. And the outcome which we get is the test plan document, guys. Okay, any questions on test planning, guys? Anyone? Because here obviously we don't have the content what is part of your test plan. Okay, so that is in the next you can say session. But yes, these are the activities which are involved in the test planning phase. Next is test designing and development, guys, which becomes like the input for them is project plan, functional requirement, test plan, what has been created over here, and design docs and use cases. Based on this 5 to 6 documents, what you do, you generate the high level scenarios, you generate high level test cases, you have the review for the test cases metrics as well as traceability metrics, and you do a sign off. Okay, who are the team responsible for doing this? Team lead is like 20 to 30%. All remaining is like QA engineers. Okay, and the output is test case document and the traceability matrix, so which becomes the input for the next phase, guys. Okay, so here you will have test case, functional requirement, and the build means a URL for the development environment, QA environment, stage environment, right? And then you start with your environment setup, executing those test cases, report issues, defect, bugs. Okay, and here guys, 90% of the time people like QA team sorry, QA engineers are involved, and 10% for reporting status and everything the QA leads is involved, guys. Okay, then we have defect reporting and tracking, guys, which include test case, test report, test log, preparation of defect report, report defect to developer, test lead, team lead, Test engineers are the who are responsible, and the output which we get over here is the defect report. And the last is test closure sign off, which is test report, defect report. These are the inputs, guys, and the activity which is involved is analyzing test report, analyzing bug report, and evaluating the exit criteria, guys. And after that we provide the summary report. So guys, over here in the test plan, guys, we will have something called as entry and exit criteria, which should be defined well. So based on those definition only, you need to take a decision whether we can move to the next step or not. Okay. And we have defect reporting and tracking. Usually we provide detail, you can say, report to the stakeholders. How many issues we have reported, how many are pass, how many are fail, how many are skip, how many are deferred, how many are like not we cannot do the development. So all this, like, we provide a high level numbers to the respective stakeholders of the this thing project. Okay, everyone are clear? Anybody has any doubt, any queries, any concern with respect to this documents, guys? Because these are your QA deliverables. Anyone wants to add anything, guys? If I may have missed something, if you want to add, please unmute and speak up, guys. Those who wants to add anything. Okay. So I think we are good, guys. I'll take a pause here, guys. I'll stop here, and I would request everyone. I'll obviously share this all document. Sorry, all this materials, guys. Once we kind of get started. After that, we'll share the drive location as well. But meanwhile, anybody got any doubts? Please unmute and speak up, guys. Anybody has anything to say? Today we'll stop here. We'll continue our discussion with the same, guys, manual testing. Last one more session. After that, we'll move on to Java, guys. So I'll stop the recording over here. Um, Anybody has anything to say, guys? If not, then we can